Hey YouTube, I've heard some stupid questions in my day. Something like, is Pepsi okay? Of course Pepsi's not okay. Just go in there and scoop me up a glass of water out of the toilet tank. Bring me no Pepsi. I'll slap you. Or, which gun should I buy? How am I supposed to know which gun you should buy? There's no correct answer to that question. But what you see here is 3 Glock 9mm, a Gen 4 26, a Gen 4 19, and a Gen 3 17. That's the most popular 9mm Glocks. The 43 is all the rage these days, but I had it, I got rid of it, I didn't care for it. It's pretty much the same profile as the 26 with half the rounds. It's pretty much the Pepsi, and I want a Coke. So I'm sticking with the 26 over the 43. But what I want to talk about today is the perfect Glock, if there is such a thing. If you're only going to have one, I suggest the 19. This is a Gen 4. Some people prefer the Gen 3, some people prefer the Gen 4. I kind of like the Gen 4 because of the larger mag release and because of the slightly slimmer frame here. The Gen 4 also comes with back straps that you can make the grip bigger. The medium back strap is supposedly the same as the Gen 3. I like the Gen 4 with no back straps. This one has the Talon grips. I like the larger mag release. Now the only other difference, other than the texturing, which I covered up anyway, is the Gen 4 comes with 3 mags, 3 15-round mags instead of 2, and this double recoil spring, which caused some problems in the early models years ago whenever they come out. I'm not sure when that was. I have it wrote down somewhere, but that's been fixed, and that's nothing to worry about anymore. It don't bother me at all. So I prefer the Gen 4. Some people say the trigger is better on the Gen 3, and that's possible. But what you can do to make the trigger the same, first thing, which I've discussed before, is filing off this nub on this transfer bar. I know you probably can't see that. It's gone. You can see on the back where it was. Maybe. It looks like something has took a punch. Look like they took a punch and punched that through. I'm not suggesting anybody do this, but if you file that off, don't take too much, just file it down smooth and polish it a little. You have just took a pound plus off your trigger pull, and that is significant. Over a pound. Coke. Pepsi won't do that. But today, I got a package in the mail, and I'm going to make this trigger a little better, if I can find it. Hold on. What I got here is a Ghost trigger bar, transfer bar, whatever you want to call it, and also the 6-pound spring. Now this spring here goes, I'll show you where it goes. I'm going to install right now. So that'll make, between this bar and this spring, that'll make what was a rough trigger a lot better. Now, I've said before, don't hammer these pins. Push it out, no big deal. Pull the big one out first, which is the lower one. Then the upper one will push right out. This one's never been down before, I don't think. Well, I guess it has. When I filed that nub off of that transfer bar, I took the trigger out, pull the locking block out. There's the pin back here in the back of the grip. This is all basic stuff everybody knows, I'm sure. This pin is polymer. and it pushes right out. Then you can pull the whole trigger mechanism right out of the gun. Now, when you take this apart, pull forward, hold the block in the back, pull forward on the whole trigger, transfer bar, the trigger, and then slightly twist it, and it'll come loose. Now pay attention to this S-spring, how it's hooked. So you can hook the new one back the same way. So just pay attention to how that's hooked into the bar there. Matter of fact, I'm just going to leave it in there until I'm ready to change it. It helps to have something to pry this old trigger bar out, because my finger obviously ain't doing it. So hold on one more second. As you can see, I obviously wasn't prepared to make this video. So what I'm going to do is get something behind this. Just ease it out. Don't get too crazy with it. There you go. Here's the new one, Ghost 3.5 pound trigger connector. I put these in all of my Glocks. There's some things I don't recommend doing, but there's some things that won't hurt anything, and this is one of them. I don't recommend changing the guide rod. I don't recommend changing the striker spring, but this spring here is called the S spring, and the one I'm going to put in is stiffer than the one I'm taking out, and that is what you want to make the trigger a little easier to pull. So that's in. The new, this one's already polished, so I don't have to worry about that. It goes in just like the one come out, no big deal. Then what you're going to want to do, it's not mandatory, but I suggest it, is polish this transfer bar where it touches the new connector. Anywhere you got metal to metal, you want to polish it. I just use the Q-tip and a little bit of aluminum polish, metal polish. Polish this part right here. No big deal. Just anywhere you got metal to metal contact, if you polish this out, that'll make that smoother, and just make the trigger just a little bit better. No drastic change. If you just polished it out, did the 25% trigger job and nothing else, you might could tell a little, but it's nothing drastic. But every little bit helps. These Glock triggers are not the smoothest in the world. And no matter how big of a Glock fan you are, you got to admit that these triggers could definitely use some improvement. And this little bit here will improve them. Not drastically, but it's worth the 5 minutes it takes to do it. It's definitely worth that. Now, I polished. You want to polish the top of this too, which I've done when I filed it down. I polished where I filed, and I polished the top of this that rubs on the striker plunger. So I've already done that. Now it's just simply a matter of putting it back together the same way you took it apart. Don't be intimidated. It's nothing to it. You're just going to pull forward, and there it is. Simple as that. Nothing to it. Now where you do want to put just a slight drop of oil is right there. Where these two meet, you can put just the slightest bit of oil. Don't get crazy with it. Just a tad. It's all it needs. Just barely a tad. So now, I can drop all this back in my frame. And it's as simple as that. Don't pull the trigger without the slide on. That's not recommended, and I wouldn't do it. So just put your pins back in the reverse order you took them out. Put this one in first. Alright. Put your locking block back in. And I put the small pin in first. That's why I like these Glocks. They're just so simple, and anybody can work on them. Put your slide stop back in. A lot of people call that the slide release, and that's not correct. Don't use that to release your slide. I don't really like how that spring's laying on there, but I don't like that at all, and I have some extra ones, and I may change that. Matter of fact, I will change that, because that, you got to pay attention to this. This is the first one I've had that's been loose, where this spring is crimped on. It's just a little U-shaped spring where it's crimped on. That will come loose. That's the first one I've ever had come loose on me. And that's one thing you can check when you tear into it. But it just so happens that I have several that I've took out of other Glocks. Now this one is tight. That's the first, like I said, that's the first one I've had that's been loose. So that's another, they're inexpensive. See, that one slid right in. That other one was giving me a little problem. So that one will get tossed in the trash. Then you're going to put your main pin back in. No hammering. There it is. You'll hear it click. It's done. I like to put just a slight drop of oil on each one of these tabs. I mean, just a tad. And that's probably too much right there. These don't need a lot of oil to run. They're almost the exact opposite of a 1911. So we're going to put our slide back on. Make sure it resets properly. And it does. If you ever get one and if you do this and it don't reset, here's what you want to do. The reason is usually right in here. Your spring and this will not be lined up properly. The problem will be right there if your trigger won't reset. Never had that happen. But that just made this probably a 4 to 4.5 pound trigger. And it's 100 times better than it was. That's a simple mod you can do. It don't hurt a thing. It makes everything better. In fact, that'll keep me from shooting to the left, but it's not too soft where it'd be dangerous to carry. So, is the Glock 19 the perfect Glock? Well, if there is such a thing, I'd say it's about as close as you can get. It's big enough to use for home defense, but small enough to conceal carry, and it's a good size you can shoot all day at the range without beating you up. So the Glock 19 Gen 4. If you're only going to have one, I'd go with the Glock 19. That's just my humble opinion. Thanks for watching.